Welcome to the Future of Real Estate, your chance to find out what's going on in real estate and the real estate market. This morning's show is brought to you by the Ellis team at RE/MAX Realty Group. RE/MAX's award winner for most transactions in Florida.
With the Ellis team at RE/MAX, it's a family affair. Always call the Ellis team, they'll handle you with care.
Welcome back to the Future of Real Estate. I'm Brett Ellis of the Ellis team at RE/MAX Realty Group. With us today is special guest Sean Ellis from the law firm of Retzel & Andrus, your senior associate there. Yep. Last segment we talked about what an association can do in terms of while someone's still living in the property to try to collect fees in this tough budgetary process. But Mike asked the question, and we said we'd come back to it. You want to ask again about once the foreclosure happens?
Yes, I do. This is the time of the year we've got new boards coming on and doing budgets and everything, and every one of them's faced with foreclosures actions or inaction happening in their communities. Some of them are severe and some not so severe. But when a foreclosure finally does get sold, associations can capture some of those back dues. And there's a difference between the condo and the homeowners. How far back can an association go back and collect?
Well, what the association can collect from a first mortgagee is capped under the respective homeowners association statute and the Condominium Act. It's the statutory limit for condos. It's 6 months or 1%, 6 months of back dues or 1% of the mortgage debt. For HOAs, it's 12 months of back dues or 1% of the mortgage
from the
debt.
foreclosure date. So if the foreclosure date was October 1st, it could go back 6 months or 12 months prior to that.
Not the foreclosure date, the date that the mortgagee takes title.
Takes title at the foreclosure.
Right. Well, yeah, they institute a foreclosure, but they eventually will take title and get a certificate of title and become the owner of the property at that time. That from there you can go back 6 months or 12 months.
Well, there's the conflict. The associations would like for these lenders to foreclose and take title of that property so they can start paying. It doesn't continue on with the delinquencies. But the lenders want to stall that because they're responsible for that.
Some lenders are.
What's the remedy for that?
Well, there's not necessarily an immediate remedy, but what you're referring to is by far the hottest topic and one of the biggest problems that associations are facing. They know they can recoup a certain amount of money from these first mortgagees, but where a foreclosure used to take 6-9 months, now foreclosures are taking more like 18 months or more. In some instances, some people think the mortgagees are purposely stalling so that they don't have to take title, pay the back dues, and start paying dues from the date they take title like any regular owner and all the other costs associated with the property. In a lot of other instances, I think that mortgagees are just so backed up. They just can't get around to it. There are so many foreclosures now, and these mortgagees have so many files that it's just taking longer and longer to get through them.
Well, whatever the reason, whether they're stalling or they just got overwhelmed with work, what can an association do to force them to act faster? Is there anything that they can do?
Well, what we try to do is take all of the actions that you can take in the legal process to help move the foreclosure along. There's been a movement to enact some legislation to force mortgagees to move along more quickly. There's been a movement to enact legislation to make mortgagees first responsible for a larger amount of money or to start paying assessments during the pendency of the foreclosure action. None of that has been successful, though.
Isn't the association often named, though, in the foreclosure suit by the originating bank?
Yeah, they will be more often than not. If they're not, well, that creates a new set of circumstances that may actually be more beneficial to the association and what they can collect. However, typically the mortgagee will name the association as another defendant, and so it's important that the association immediately file an answer so they become a party to the action and they start getting notices of everything that's happening. And while the mortgage foreclosure between the lender and their owner is not necessarily the association's fight, they certainly have an interest in collecting their back due assessments, and becoming a party enables the association and their legal counsel to take certain steps to try to force it along, setting hearing dates, and ultimately trying to notice the foreclosure for trial, try to get a defendant's motion for summary judgment in order to get the judge to actually finish the foreclosure action and enter a summary judgment against the defendant because they have no defenses anyway, and get this thing done and set a foreclosure date.
By being a party, the association can actually help speed it along. Now, the association has one other remedy. If they're not being paid, they can bring a foreclosure suit of their own, can't they?
Right, which is what we talked about a little bit in the last segment. It's independent. They're independent from one another. There's no reason they can't happen simultaneously, but it's certainly something that associations can look at. There's instances where you've exhausted all your remedies through the legal process in that mortgagee foreclosure action. So associations will say, gosh, we've already filed the lien. Let's look at foreclosing our own lien and take title back to the property ourselves.
Why don't you give your phone number again? It's
239-337-3850.
And you're with Retzel and Andrus. Your website
Retzel and
is?
Andrus. You can find us on the web at ralaw.com.
I think this is important because an association, time is money, and if you have to counter sue or if you have to be a party or initiate your own foreclosure action, dates are important. You need an attorney who's used to doing this, not just somebody who kind of just,
dates
this
are very
is a
important.
process.
It's a time-sensitive set of circumstances, and so it's important to have your counsel along there with you. And it's also important to recognize, when you're collecting, whether it be the statutory cap from a foreclosing lender, whether you're working and enforcing your lien, those costs of collection and attorney's fees related to collection are the association is statutorily entitled to collect those as well, to recoup those.
And this is where you're focusing your practice. You're specializing in this.
Well, all association matters, all general representation for community associations. Just so happens what we're talking about right now is an especially hot topic for associations.
There's another big issue out there with the owners of property. A lot of them are investors where they're renting their property out to tenants. They collect the rent, but they don't make the mortgage payments. So there's people living in there that the association, is there a remedy for them to capture some of those rent payments to pay the association fees?
Well, we talked about that. We touched on that briefly in the last segment, and it's something that associations are looking into, and I've assisted associations in trying to pursue that. It may require amendment of your association documents in order to have that remedy. In some instances, it may also require the association to become a party to the lease or only affect new leases. However, it's worth looking at, and we're seeing associations do it, and we're trying to help associations pursue that as another avenue of obtaining some more assessments. And so it's certainly something that they should talk to their attorney about.
Well, Sean, I want to thank you for being a special guest on The Future of Real Estate, presented by the Ellis Team at RE/MAX. On behalf of Sandy, Mike, and the entire team, I want to thank you. You've been watching The Future of Real Estate. Our website is topagent.com. Sean's website is ralaw.com. Our phone number, if you want to reach us, is 239-489-4042. We don't handle any of this association business. If you got a property to sell, please call us. We can definitely help.